Hello, everybody. My name is Altan Demirkaya. I'm a manager of global travel and the director at SKAL Vancouver. Welcome to the Tourism Talks, where we will talk to business leaders across the globe about the coronavirus, the future of travel and tourism, and some of their own personal experiences through this crisis. Today, I'm very excited and thrilled to introduce my guest, the president of Key Tourism Services and the past president of SKAL Canada, Paul Durand. Paul is joining us live from Edmonton. It's great to see you, Paul. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be joining you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Paul, and it's a great pleasure to have you. So, how are you managing through this crisis personally? I heard that you are known as an amateur chef, so is that means you are enjoying your time home?
I am. I'm doing a little bit of experimentation at home and trying to make the most of the time here. As for the work side of things, it's quiet for sure. The work that I do as a sales manager or business development for suppliers into travel agencies has pretty much stopped right now, and probably won't start till at least August. I do some really interesting work with indigenous groups who are
Oh, very cool.
traditionally unemployed or underemployed. And we do hospitality training for them and help them get roles into entry level jobs in hospitality,
Oh, that's
which is
amazing.
usually something that's understaffed. Not right now, but so that's pretty much stopped. I also instruct at a local college in their hospitality institute, and the classroom courses are they're trying to adapt them to online. So I've been supporting that. So doing a little bit of work there, so all from home.
That's amazing, Paul. These are great initiatives. I'm glad that you are
Hmm.
giving back to the community and working on the development of tourism and training
Yeah.
people, which is, I think, very important during these times because um, unfortunately, some of our friends, let's say in the industry, they lost their jobs, and I think this is a great time to improve and learn new skills.
Hmm.
So I'm glad that you are keeping busy.
Yeah, I agree. Like this, I definitely have the capacity to do more work. That's for sure. A lot of stuff has
Mhm.
stopped, but you're doing some business development and trying to set things up for when things come back, so that you're ready to go and can hit the ground running.
Yes. So Paul, Canadian hotel occupancy fell 75.8% to 16% the last week of April. So this crisis really hit our industry extremely hard, and we know that. And it's impacted all the sectors of travel and tourism. And I know that you are passionate about travel and you are working with travel agents across the country. How do you think this crisis affected the travel agents and the TMCs?
Well, just like everything else, it's been a very big impact for them. At the start of all of this, they worked incredible hours from the travel agents I talked to, helping repatriate, because a travel agent really cares about their clients, and
Yes.
they worked so hard to get people back as all the rules changed and flights were canceled and unbelievable amount of work. Making no money at it at all. They were lucky because most suppliers would protect their commissions, so that at least they weren't going backwards and having to return all the money of all the stuff they were canceling. But they were doing all this work to get people back and not getting any money from it. So that was a big hit on them. Right now, of course, there's not a whole lot going on in the industry, so they don't have a whole lot to do. And it's worrisome because it's a business that's always had very thin margins. There's not a whole lot of profitability there. So we may lose a few travel agencies from this event. But I think in the long term, in the future, travel agents have really proved themselves,
Yes.
and I think that it's opened a lot of people's eyes that, oh, there's some real advantages to booking with a travel agent. So I think in the long run, there'll be a benefit and a resurgence of the use of travel agents. People that had decided to start booking online, that will come back. So at the end, I think there'll be a positive, but it's probably a little ways away still.
Yes. And I agree with you, Paul. I think that people will see value on working with travel agents, as it makes the customer service process easier, from the aviation to ground transportation to lodging.
A little bit further into that is that travel agents have always had a place in the industry, doing that stuff that you just talked about, the putting an independent package together where it's not all pre-packaged. So you're bringing all those
Yes.
different pieces together. There's a lot of work and a lot of
Mhm.
knowledge that needs to be there. So that's always been there. There has been less people that have used travel agents for something like a package tour or just airfare and that. And I think from this experience with COVID-19, they're seeing that there's a value there. So we'll
Mhm.
see people come back from that. But I don't think a travel agent's just there in case something goes wrong. They have access to product and pricing that no one else does. And as
Yes.
people go back and try them again, they're going to see that value um, of using them just because they're there and their knowledge and their connections, and then having them there in case something does go wrong, because hopefully that doesn't happen very often.
Mhm.
That's just that a little bit extra on top.
Yes, exactly. And I
Mm-hmm.
have talked to people from different parts of the industry. We know that there are high expectations from the supplier base, from hotels to aviation to ground transportation in terms of the disinfecting qualities, cleanliness. So travelers want to see high standards are set for reducing the coronavirus and through every phase of travel experience. So I would like to talk to you about the expectations from the travel agents. Because during my live streams previously, we talked a lot about the expectations from the airlines, hotels. So what do you think about that, Paul? So what are the expectations? What the travelers are expecting from the travel agents and the TMCs?
That's a good question. I think at the end of the day, whether you're a consumer or a travel agent, you're looking to feel safe. That's what everyone's going to be looking at the base. And you already see a lot of hotel companies and airlines and everything. They're rolling out their new cleanliness
Yes.
programs, and I don't think in the long run that's going to be much of a differentiator because everyone's going to have an upgraded cleaning program, and that piece is going to start becoming a little bit of white noise. So it's
Okay.
all about what's that extra you can do to give confidence, and it could be just something really minor like uh, you have this really good cleaning program, but people always have the doubt in their mind, well, what if that room attendant was busy and didn't actually do it today? Because,
Right.
you know, so just maybe giving that extra backup, like handing out a little package of antibacterial wipes or something
Mhm.
on check-in in case people want to, just to double be sure, be able to wipe down the contact
Yes.
services themselves. And like I've always traveled with some wipes, and I've done that in the hotels. That's just part of living out of hotels for a good part of your life.
Yes.
But just something like that just gives them that little bit extra that, okay, I know they're doing a good job, but if I've done it myself, it'll be even better. And then that confidence is there. So I think that's kind of the direction it's going to have to go.
These are great insights. Thank you, Paul. And I think, I mean, it's very interesting. And you are a travel professional. And I think you are right from that perspective that I think this should be mandatory for all the hotels, right? To have um, high standards for cleanliness for the guests, for the travelers. I think this is very important. And it's funny um, you were talking about the fact that you are carrying your own wipes and everything. I know that you have done a lot of traveling. I think once we travel a lot, we have, I think we all have our, let's say, best practices instead of habits. And I also have things like that too. Every time when I travel, I think being a hotelier, for some reason, every time when I check in, I would like to inspect the room. I don't know, that's a really, really maybe bad thing. I mean, it could be time consuming sometimes. As soon as I walk into the room, I go to bathroom and I check out the bedroom and see if they clean
Mm-hmm.
well. And when I was working in the hotel, I was doing that regularly for our VIP guests. And it's funny that it stick on me now. Every time when I travel, when I check into the hotel, I do that in a regular basis.
Yeah,
And I have,
I think some people get a little bit extreme with it. So I'm not that bad, but just a little piece like that just gives you some peace of mind, and then you can just relax and enjoy where you are.
Yes. Once business levels resume, we recognize that the expectations and needs of hotel guests will have changed, and I think we need to emerge from this crisis with a new perspective. I think we need to embrace technology and training and strengthening our health and cleanliness protocols. And the expectations will be different from the hotels too. I think some of the travelers, some of the hotel guests, maybe they will request from the hotel. They will maybe try to avoid housekeeping services during their stay to avoid personal interaction. I think this could be a new trend too. On the other hand, maybe we will have some guests that they really want to make sure that the room is clean, and it's going to be very interesting and see what will be the trends going forward from that perspective. So I want to a little bit talk about supplier evaluation process, Paul. Travel agents and the TMCs are the part of the decision-making process when it comes to the travel. And I think that there will be some changes on the supplier evaluation process. We talked about it a little bit in terms of the cleanliness qualities. So what is your view on that? If you go into the details, what will be the most significant change in the decision-making process for travel agents going forward? Or do you think it won't be any, I mean,
No,
specific
I think
changes?
it will. I think that, like you said, the cleanliness thing, there's going to be some changes, and the industry is going to have to react to that. But it is going to be similar across the industry. Everyone's going to be doing more or less the same thing. They
Yes,
may take different approaches. So I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of change there. From my perspective and the travel agent perspective, I think the biggest decision maker moving forward is going to be flexibility, because it used to be you buy a cheap fare, it's non-refundable, non-changeable. This day and age, that's just not going to be a thing anymore. Um, I've seen all over Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn travel agents saying, "Don't cancel, rebook."
yes,
Everybody's pushing that. But this is a time when there's so much uncertainty that, yeah, I want to go. I want to just change my date, but in November, is it still going to be okay? Is it going to be okay to go or not, right? So I think looking at suppliers that are going to have the most flexibility and allow you to make those changes without any expense at the last minute,
mhm,
allow you to fully refund it if there's a second wave that hits and things like that. I think that's going to be something that's going to affect the decisions of which suppliers are going to be used going forward. And we'll see. I think everyone's going to have to become a bit more flexible, but that's gonna really affect how we book and how confident we are in booking anything in the future.
yes. These are great. Again, I think I agree with you on that. I think we will see some changes on the booking process as well, and also this is the time to be flexible to travelers and travel agents. I think this is going to be very important, and especially from a supply perspective, I mean there is a competition out there, right? If you are being more flexible to the travelers, probably you will be preferred over other options. I think
Mm-hmm.
that will boost your role in the market, your level on the market. So I'm trying to change the topic now to make some to have some fun with you, little bit, Paul. So virtual meetings are now very important, more than ever. And I'm having lots of virtual meetings and also happy hours recently. And to
Mm-hmm.
be honest, I'm really missing in-person meetings. So do you prefer having virtual meetings or do you prefer having in-person meetings? What do you think about that?
I think they each have their place.
Mhm.
Um, Anybody that's had to travel for 8 hours to attend a 2 hour meeting will agree that a virtual meeting
True.
is not a terrible thing. And that was before all this craziness happened. That was the case. And I think there is going to continue to be that place where if it's just a few people, if it's just for an hour or less that the meeting is, um, virtual is an excellent tool for that. But if it's for a longer get together, if you're doing a strategy session or day-long trainings or anything like that, doing it virtually is very, very difficult. It's hard to keep the attention. It's hard to participate if there's multiple people on the
Yeah,
call. So in person is always going to have a place, and it will be important. Human beings, we're social beings, right? We create our relationships and get to know people, get to trust people from that face to face, and it's just not the same online. So I guess it depends on the situation, really.
exactly. I
But I
think it's
agree
the
with you. Face to face is always best.
yes. I think yeah, exactly. I think it's depending on the situation, and virtual meetings could be very beneficial sometimes in terms of the you can save more time and you can connect with people over Zoom or different softwares that are out there, and you can save some time. But in terms of as a sales professional, to me, I think it's important to have in-person meetings. I feel like I can connect with people better that way.
Hmm.
But again, it's depending on the situation, right? Right now, we try to avoid non-essential travel, so virtual meetings are the only option for us right now.
Yeah. Well, when you don't have another option, that's what you're
Yes,
going to have to do, right?
but there's a fear, I think, in some of us, I should say, that virtual meetings will take over in-person meetings in the future. I have seen different articles about that. It said that as we are going into the digital world, some of the companies maybe they will close their offices and ha have people working remotely and have virtual meetings instead. I think it's depending on the business too. In some of the businesses could be beneficial. For instance, if there's an IT company, instead of going in person, if you can manage to if you can manage your work remotely, maybe that will be the best option for them. But maybe for travel and tourism professionals, it could be a different case. So
Yeah, again, definitely has its place. But if you've done any of these Zoom meetings where there's four screens worth of pictures of people and you're trying to
yeah,
get input from the different people on there, it just doesn't work, right? You can't
exactly,
have all those people participate and feel that they were participating. It's okay for a download where you have one person speaking, but to have any kind of interaction makes it very difficult if you get more than
exactly,
5, 6 people on there.
exactly.
Hmm.
So I think the other most important thing to talk about is the labor. So unemployment is around 15% right now in Canada, I believe. From a travel professional perspective, what is your view on the job recovery period for post-pandemic?
I think it's going to be pretty slow. Um, I think you're going to see it match with the recovery stats. So let's say a travel agency and an airline, their sales are 50% of what they are, or um, the a hotel's occupancy is 50% of what it was pre, then you're probably going to see them bring back about 50% of their staff. So it'll probably match that. So if they're not back to their post-COVID numbers for 3 years, you're probably not going to see the staffing levels recover to post-COVID numbers for 3 years. So it's a little bit scary, but I believe that's probably what we're going to see. Like, the more you read about the airlines and how long it's going to take for them to recover, that's going to slow the progress for the whole industry, I believe.
Yes. And as our industry evolves, as our industry take more precautions, and their cost is also increasing. So
Hmm.
that will be interesting to see if we will see difference in the pricing as well, in the hotels and in the airlines too. So that's going to be interesting. This has been tough for all of us for sure. And so, how is your view on travel trends, Paul? We are hearing from the researchers that people um, don't want to travel to the places that are not overcrowded. Do you think this will change the travel trends? This crisis will
Um,
change the travel trends.
I think it will at first. People are going to be a little bit cautious to start with. So they're going to be making those decisions safety based. That doesn't mean they're not going to travel. So maybe someone that's completely into cruising, maybe they look at a 100 cabin river cruise over a 2,800 cabin ocean cruise at first,
Hmm.
because they'll feel safer on the smaller. Someone going to Europe that would traditionally have taken the rail or a bus, maybe they rent a car, so they have a little bit more control over
Yes.
exposure that way. So I think we'll see that at first, and then as people do a little bit of travel and they've experienced travel post COVID and they start gaining that confidence, then they'll go back to the more regular patterns of booking that they would have. So I think, yeah, that's more not as crowded experiences are going to be what are sought out first for dipping their toes into the travel water again.
Exactly. And I know that pre-wrapped and grab and go offerings are likely to be the solution in the near future. I know that hotels are doing some changes from that perspective, which is very different, which is a different experience for the traveler instead of sitting in the restaurant and now just grabbing your food item in the lobby and just, I mean it's a really different traveler experience. But I
Oh
think
yeah,
as a
things like
traveler,
things like buffets, or what happens to buffets?
yeah, exactly. And in terms of the travel trends, I think we will see a lot of um, drive to locations happening in the near future. I think people will prefer to drive to locations rather than
Mm-hmm.
flying to locations for a while. I think this will be a big thing. Um, and in Canada, yes, we have lots of options, but also it could be difficult sometimes to drive to locations because, I mean, right? I mean, I love
Mm-hmm.
Banff. I love Rocky Mountains. To me, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. And from here to there, I think it will take minimum 10 hours. But I think we can still make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about something fun. Where would you travel first after all of this?
Well, there's a lot of push about supporting the Canadian economy, supporting Canadian businesses, travel locally. I think every country is probably saying the same thing about their countries, supporting
Hmm.
local. So I'm a big believer in that. So definitely want to do that. I may, just like you said, I love Banff. I go a couple times a year. So I think that would be a
Good
first
option for you.
trip, and it's a 3 or 4 hour drive for me, so it's not too bad, and I would never go any other way but to drive. So that's a good one. And then somewhere else in Canada, maybe. Like, I know the SKAL Canada executive they have a board meeting in November for their fall meetings planned in Halifax. So
Okay.
I'm not involved in that anymore, but maybe I'll crash the party. And I'm
Why not?
missing my SKAL meeting get-togethers because it's been a big part of my life for a while now. So.
Yes, me as well. I think SKAL is the best place to network and also have fun with our industry, with our friends
Hmm.
from the industry.
For sure. Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit, Paul. So I would like to talk about a little bit of your presidency experience with SKAL Canada. How does it feel like? How was it feel like to be a president of SKAL Canada?
Oh, it was a fantastic experience. I feel terrible for the current president in
Yes.
Canada and the U.S., who's I'm good friends with, as I got to visit all of our clubs across Canada. I visited all 17 clubs. It was a big part of my year. I was traveling every single month somewhere, doing something, and to see that completely stopped now is difficult. I found it very fulfilling to be able to visit all these clubs because you see the similarities across Canada, but they all have their whole unique feel, and so I learned a lot from visiting them all, and I've made a ton of connections, and
Mhm.
just made me more uh, realize the value of SKAL and what it can bring, being a member.
Mhm.
It was a fantastic year. It was really, really good.
Yes, it was a great pleasure to see you in Vancouver too. And I agree with you on that. I think SKAL is, I mean, I have met some amazing people through this organization from all over the world, and SKAL has been very important for our industry. And I know that, for instance, SKAL USA and Dave is watching us right now, and they are taking a very important initiative to support um, travel and tourism workers in the industry that need support. I think that's very important initiative, and I think people
Mm-hmm.
will see more value on SKAL too, and to recognize the power of SKAL because it's all about connections.
Yeah.
So,
At the
what
end of the
was
day, we're competitors, but we all want a strong, healthy industry as well. So having that
of course,
connection
yeah,
means a lot.
of course. I think at the end of the day, as you said, I think it's all about also um, working to embrace the SKAL, right? Embrace the organization. And my next question is, what is your most favorite place that you have traveled so far?
Ooh, I was very lucky to do a lot of traveling in my
Yes, I know
younger
that you
days
have done a lot
before
of traveling.
Canadians. Uh, Probably one of my first big trips and has stuck with me forever is probably traveling to Kenya. Amazing people, just an incredible experience seeing the animals in their
I
natural
missed that one.
habitat. Um, I spent just over 3 months in Kenya, and I fell in love with the place for sure. So I think that would have to be it. But I've been to China numerous times. I've been to Australia a few times, and they're both, all of them are pretty incredible. Usually my favorite place is the last place I was until I go somewhere else.
I missed that one actually. I was looking forward to go to SKAL Congress in South Africa, and South Africa is on my bucket list, at the top of
Mm-hmm.
my list actually. After all of this, I'm really looking forward to going to South Africa and do a safari. It's like a dream
Yeah, I was
vacation
looking
for me.
forward to the Croatia World Congress, so we'll see what happens with that.
Mhm.
We'll probably see them in a couple of years, maybe.
Hopefully, we will see it sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So I will take the questions from our audience, Paul, and we
Okay.
already received one question so far. So I'm just going to read the question. In order to support the hospitality industry after this crisis, how do you think Canadians can be encouraged to visit restaurants and other businesses when they are open while being safe?
Um, I don't know that they're going to need a lot of encouragement. A lot of the people I talk to are going pretty stir crazy and they can't wait to get out and do something. Um, but Canadians in general are very proud to be Canadian. And I think that whole thing I talked about buying Canadian, supporting Canadian businesses, staying in Canadian hotels, eating Canadian restaurants, I think that's going to have legs, and people are really gonna buy into that, especially since the borders are closed right now, so you don't have any
Yes,
other options. But even once borders open, I think that that's gonna influence people to get out. So just being able, after being inside for a couple of months, going out will come naturally, the want and desire, and then supporting local will be the second part of it.
yes. I mean, as a traveler, I can't wait to travel again. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too.
As soon as the government ease the precautions, I will probably be the first one to go into the restaurants and
Hmm.
meeting with friends. So lastly, what is your message to our industry?
The message, well, people talk about travel being optional, but I think for a lot of people it isn't. It's something that's part of them and it's something that they need to do. And not just people in the industry, just a lot of people, just they need to travel. Our industry has been through a lot of rough things. When you look from the travel agent perspective, when the airlines stopped paying commission, everybody was like, "Oh, that's the end of travel agents. They're gone. They're finished," and they weren't. When online became a really booking online became a standard thing, everybody's like, "Oh, that's it for travel agents," but they're still here. 9/11, they said travel would never be the same after that. We recovered. Even some of these flu type things like the swine flu and SARS, that took a big bite out of tourism and slowed us down, but we recovered from that. So if any past experience shows us, travel is extremely resilient, and it may take a little while to come back, but we will definitely come back. It may look a little bit different, but it'll come back. We just need some time.
Thank you for the great message. And I agree with you on that. I think we will overcome this just like what we overcame before. And this is not the first
Mm-hmm.
time that we are facing a crisis as travel and tourism professionals. And I think we need to stay positive and we need to travel again. And that's our
You got it.
passion. And nobody can avoid us from traveling. So,
Nope. I'll see you at the airport.
yes. Paul, I can't thank you enough for taking the time and sharing your valuable insights with us today. I truly enjoyed our conversation. It was very informative. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Thank you all for watching us. Please continue to follow our live streams. Stay safe, be well. Bye bye.
Bye.